Hi, this is Nigel. I'm the Ashtanga Mysore teacher at Pure Yoga Asia Standard Tower in Hong Kong. I'm here with Anita, my student and assistant, and we are here to talk with David Swenson, who's here to visit us this week, bringing us classes and workshops.
Very
Hi,
happy
David.
to be here. Hey, I'm very happy to be here.
Very
Thanks.
happy to have you. It's been a great week so far.
So far, love it.
I've got a bunch of questions. Let's see how many
Fantastic.
we get through.
I've got the time.
The first thing is, obviously you're a legend and pioneer of Ashtanga Yoga. Everybody knows that. However, not everybody knows that you have a long connection with Hong Kong. Yes. According to my little list I've made here, you were living and teaching here in the 80s. You, with the advent of Pure Yoga, you were here with us in the early 2000s, including giving a now legendary teacher training course 20 years ago, which produced a number of the teachers that still persist at Pure Yoga. Before the pandemic, you visited us many times, including for the Asia Yoga Conference. And now, after a 6-year absence, we're very grateful to have you back at Hong Kong for this 6 days of classes and workshops. We're leading to a question.
Okay.
I'd like to know a little bit about what the Hong Kong yoga scene was like back in the day, and I'd like your observations of what you've seen now that you're back here.
Sure. So back in the day, I mean, maybe you're aware of this, but when I was here as a Hare Krishna. Yeah. So the yoga I was teaching was minimal. It was really because I was a Hare Krishna devotee and asanas wasn't our thing. I would do yoga demonstrations at Repulse Bay and had a couple of yoga classes a week in the temple in Kowloon side.
When you say Repulse Bay, do you mean literally
on the beach?
On the beach, wow.
Yes, because we wanted to get a crowd, and that's where you get a crowd, right? So it was easy to get a crowd. I also did some demos at Chinese University, and in my new book, there's even some pictures I'm doing. I don't know where it was, some huge, like on an ice skating rink. They covered with wood, and I had spotlights, and I did some demo. It was just to promote yoga, and then they would come to the temple, and I would teach a couple of classes a week, but really it was to encourage people to come and learn more about the philosophy of the Hare Krishna movement and have Krishna food and stuff like that. So the teaching was sort of minimal. It wasn't Ashtanga specific, if I will, yeah. So in general, though, there wasn't yoga happening here. It just wasn't. It wasn't a thing. And it was very much segregated. There were either British expats that really didn't speak any Cantonese or locals that didn't speak any English. And so the two communities didn't overlap that much. And so any yoga that there might have been, I suspect, was probably just expats. Might have been some Iyengar yoga or something going on, but there wasn't any Ashtanga. Yeah. Then over the years, things started to change. And even when I was here, I learned a little bit of Cantonese. I speak a little bit, because I wanted to try to speak a little bit, yeah. But now, and I was just commenting to Sam in a little talk we had earlier on her blog, that it's really inspiring to see that the community that's been built here, there's a really strong core of practitioners, yeah, doing all different series, and really competent, strong, and qualified teachers that are holding the space. Someone asked me the other day, said, "Oh, David," they were shy to ask this during the workshop, even though I always say, "Are there any questions?" You know, but they said, "I wanted to ask, now that Sharath is dead, what do I think the future of Ashtanga Yoga will be?" And I said, "But David Jois died, and for all of us that were his students, it carried on, because Sharath wasn't our teacher. I love Sharath, and I was friendly with Sharath, and I would go visit him when he came to America and so forth. But the yoga carries on, right? And so a great demonstration of that is what we see here in Hong Kong. This yoga is never meant to be about a person. When we make it about a figurehead, a human, it's a problem, because humans are flawed and our life is temporary. So if you make it about that person, when they die, we're lost. But if you make it about a practice, and that practice is facilitated by so many people all over the world. So what's happening here is beautiful. There's this strong core that's been built for at least 12 years here, right? But it's happening all over the world. And I describe it like this, that let's say you're in the forest and there's this beautiful big tree. It's a spectacular, huge specimen tree, yeah? And you want to go there. You have picnics there. Maybe you had your first kiss under that tree. You brought your children there. You have a tree house in the tree. It's a place that has all these beautiful memories, and it's a place that people will congregate. Not just you, but it's, hey, let's meet at the tree. You all go there and you hang out. And it creates a whole community around this tree. One day you go in the forest, and that tree has fallen. And at first, all we can feel and see is the absence of a tree. It's just left this void, and we're totally devastated. Like, what am I going to do? The tree is gone. But if we sit and we really contemplate this scene for a moment, calmly, when a big tree falls in a forest, it decays into the ground, and the ground becomes really fertile there. And what happens is hundreds of little trees start to sprout where the one big tree was before. Because also the tree, which is, with its benevolence, it opened the canopy to allow light to come in. And this is the light of knowledge, yeah? Without light, nothing can grow. So this big tree, from its compassion, went away and created fertile ground where hundreds of other little trees could grow. And that's what happened with Ashtanga. It's not about one person. None of us can fill the void that David Jois left, or that Sharath left, or whatever. But it was never meant to be.
Yeah.
It was meant for those people to create fertile ground where hundreds of other people will sprout up to fill that void, and that's what's healthy about it. It should not be the one person. We revere, we have the memories, we honor that, we respect it, we're grateful for that time with the big tree. But then we each have a responsibility to stand on our own 2 feet and become the teachers. Yeah? And that's the way of life, and it's meant to be passed along like that. And yes, will there be little differences? Sure, but that's also healthy. Yeah?
Yeah, I felt that empowerment too. When he passed, even though I hadn't seen Sharath, when I hadn't seen him for many years, first of all, I felt like the absence. And that, even though I haven't seen him for years, he was still a voice in my head, kind of, not in a harsh way, but he was judging my practice.
Yes.
You know, correct and correct
Yes.
was in my head. And then he wasn't there anymore. And that voice then became dissipated. But it totally empowered me. And in fact, that's why, along with Anita's help, I started using this branding to try and add some juice into the scene. It's exactly why I invited you to come back, to add some juice into the scene. I feel like I'm more empowered to now make my own kind of bigger decisions, if you like. You know, it wouldn't have occurred to me before. I was just this meek, you know, like, I'm just going to teach the class, that's it. And now I feel there's a bigger task at hand, you know, and it's because of his absence. It's very interesting, and I hadn't thought of it until you said it, actually.
And people forget that David Jois' son is still alive, Manju.
Yeah, well, yes.
And Saraswati is still
Yeah.
alive. They're direct lineage of his teachings, right? And his, you know, granddaughter Sharmila, they're all there carrying this on as well. So that's the other thing that people forget, that it wasn't just Sharath.
Yeah,
These other people are also, and they're still here and they're still teaching, and so, but this is normal. Anytime the figurehead of something passes, whether it's in martial arts, you look at martial arts history and the great Kung Fu masters, something happens in different students, it becomes like different little limbs from the tree coming out there, yeah. So.
Well, you've answered the last question about the future of Ashtanga, so I think we're done.
Okay. Great. That was easy.
Some of these questions were passed to me. Most of them were about asanas, and I scrubbed them all, except for one, which is a really good question from Raymond, one of the assistants this morning. So Raymond asked, this is the only asana question, how do we encourage people to emphasize finishing postures? I've also seen it that people will tend to try and sneak out without necessarily doing all or even any of the finishing postures. It's like the exciting stuff is finished, I'm out of here, you know. So Raymond's question is, how do we encourage people to emphasize doing the finishing postures.
You explain to them that you haven't finished your practice. It's right there in the word. It's like going, but what if I don't do that? What if I just go,
Yeah, we're
you're
left
gonna
with
start
an
losing, you're
uncomfortable
gonna
silence.
start losing sleep tonight, right? And so Ashtanga, it's a beginning, a middle, and an end. The first day we learned, the first day I got Ashtanga, I got Surya Namaskara A, Surya Namaskara B, and the final 3 postures of closing. You get the beginning and the end, and you keep building in the middle. So without the end, you haven't completed. It's like singing a song and not finishing the verse, you know, and so it's important. It just has to be explained that it's important. And as a teacher, it's our duty to guide these folks, you know. It's not just exercise, and you don't just do the fun bits, it's the whole thing, you know. And so you can explain, wow, I understand your enthusiasm, you want to do all the tricks, but you got to save time. Either you've got to come earlier to class to do it all, or do less so that you have time to finish. Otherwise, you're not completing the practice. It's in some ways, it's not even healthy.
I feel that way.
Because it's like, you run a marathon and then just go to work. You know what I mean? It's like this system is designed like this, like climbing a mountain. You get to the peak, and then you climb down the back and you wind down. Every series has a pinnacle of output. Where is it in primary series? What's the peak of output of energy? Navasana. Really, it's Navasana.
Forgot.
No, but you think about it.
Yes.
What happens before that? There's more jump back vinyasas in primary than anywhere. You have right side, left side, right side.
Yeah.
And it builds to Navasana 5 times. Yeah, Bhujapitasana, but things change. What's different in the second half of primary series?
Less jump backs.
Because there's no more bilateral postures. I mean, you're doing them both, so a lot less, so it naturally starts to go like this. Intermediate series is probably around Nakrasana or something, right? Advanced series, it starts at the peak.
Yeah.
It's like they throw you out of a helicopter and say, climb! Because you're just like, whoa, you're just right up on one hand and it just,
Yeah.
but they all have a built-in, you need this to wind down.
Yeah.
If you don't have it, you're left with this thing, and you need the completeness of it to calm the nervous system. So if it's explained like that, you know, it's difficult, students, that they don't want to listen, but at some point it's not fair.
Yeah.
And you've heard me say this multiple times in the workshop. They'll only do that in yoga.
It's interesting, isn't it? And when you asked in this teacher training session we had yesterday, and you asked, and the very first question was asked is, what do we do about difficult students? And you said, what do you mean by difficult? And she said,
Stubborn.
well, stubborn. They don't want to listen to you.
Yeah.
They don't want to do what you ask them to
They do what they want.
This is the classic scenario.
So, but then I ask that person, would you do this with your martial arts class? Would you look at your martial arts teacher and say, no, I don't want to do that whole form, I'm only doing half of it. I just want to do the fun bits when I kick my leg high. Would you do it with your piano teacher? No, I don't play scales, I just want to learn Bach, you know, or whatever. It's like, would you do it with your singing? No other situation would they do it. It's only in yoga. And we have to train students to understand, yes, this is joyful, it's fun, but it's a discipline. And this is a discipline. You wouldn't do that with your Tai Chi teacher, your Kung Fu teacher, your math teacher, whatever. So why are they allowed to do it in yoga? And so it's uncomfortable, but you got to take control. Otherwise, why does anybody have to do what you're saying? But if I'm your student, which means I paid you for a class, in essence, I'm saying, please advise me. I'm paying you for your advice, and now I'm saying, I don't want your advice.
Yeah, right.
You
It's
have
almost
to-
like a battle of wills for...
Well, it's
Somebody.
disrespect. It's
Yeah.
the ultimate disrespect, right? It's disrespectful. And we need to teach that it's just part of being respectful. And it's really fascinating because my feeling in Asia in general, you're taught to revere and respect your teachers. So why in yoga is that not being taught? They don't consider you a teacher, right? You're just some person that's there in front of the room, right? But no. And so we have to explain, first of all, yeah, there's a finishing sequence. You guys, you got to do this. If you're going to come to my class, you got to do it. And at some point, you might have to say, or don't come. And that's difficult, and especially some place like Pier, you got to keep bodies coming, you know, you got to keep them in the room. You could toy around with different ways of doing it, saying, wow, I notice you leave. That's fine. I guess, you know, you're just not going to really experience that real juice, man. When you get that other, wow. The closing sequence, like, I imagine a cake with no icing on it. You know, whatever, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's a real thing, yeah, that there's, I think it's not only in yoga though, maybe it's in a lot of things. It's a new culture.
Yeah, maybe right.
Of people I see how little kids talk to their parents, and I'm like, wow, I couldn't have talked to my parents like that. You get slapped, you know, or whatever, right? There's just, something's shifted a little bit, yeah? And it's our duty to try to keep it. Now, they wouldn't do that with Sharath.
No way. Well, they wouldn't last long if they did.
They wouldn't do it with Sharath, wouldn't do it with Patabi Jois. They would just say, leave, yeah? And so at some point, people need to understand, yes, it's fun, but you got to listen to me. I'm trying to keep you safe. If you keep doing this, it's not good for your nervous system. You're going to be jacked, you know, on this stuff you've been doing, and you need to have the calm down moment, you know.
Beyond the physical postures, vinyasa count, etc., what would you say is the essential feeling or internal state that a dedicated Ashtanga practice should cultivate? And how do you guide students to discover that for themselves?
It's an easy one. Listen to your breath. If you make this a breath-centric practice, the depth of your experience is going to grow exponentially. If you're just focused on making shapes, it's just a mechanical, physical thing. You could be doing push-ups. If you make it breath-centric, it becomes a meditation in motion. It changes everything. And there's a handful of people I see doing all kind of warm-up postures, but they've already been practicing for an hour and they show them warming up. I'm saying, if you're not warm now, you haven't been breathing. Oh no, but I've been doing this warm. I say, but that's not the point. There's a flow and a rhythm and a breath. It's like doing Tai Chi and stopping in the middle and going, but I've got to do all of this stuff because you're breaking the flow. So I would say my advice is listen to your breath. Why do we make a sound? This is a mantra. It's no different than saying, Om, Om. Mind wanders, come back to that. Breath has an overall soothing, calming, and energizing effect. You can have both of those things at once. But it's an energizing effect that's this kind of an energy, this calm. You get it right, and everything changes. You'll have greater heat in your body. You'll go deeper in your practice. You'll feel better. You'll be less sore. You'll be more calm. The key is that. Let breath be the fulcrum, like the center of a wheel. All of the other spokes are coming from that. And then I would ask this, without breath focus, is it still yoga?
Right.
How does it differentiate from anything else, from somebody jumping around? Because you look in the window, it's a gymnastics class, people hopping around. Yeah.
In practical terms, if we use the terminology that I heard first from Tim Miller, which is researching, what could we say then is a reason? Because some researching is very useful. You know, there are certain sticky moments in the practice where I would love to have a very quick something or other. What I tend to do is limit people to like a minute. Like, okay, do that, but do it for a minute, not 7 minutes. Don't disappear to the farthest corner of the room and, you know.
Well,
so I try and do that. I mean,
and so I'm just going to qualify this and say, I love Tim Miller dearly, but I'm not a fan of research.
You're not
postures.
a fan of research?
No.
Good to know.
And Nancy Gogoff would say no research. She would just stop you with no research. The research is try to get into the posture. That's the research. Right. And I say, it's baseball. You get 3 strikes. You try the posture once, you try it a second time, you try it a third time, done. Tomorrow's another day. All this research stuff, when does it stop? And then I see people,
right.
I see people warming up before their practice, and I go, okay, well, are you going to warm up before the warm up?
Yeah, I
You need
know,
to
right?
warm up before the warm up before the warm up before the warm up. So Surya Namaskara A is a warm up.
Yeah, exactly.
And the first ones go a little slower. You're kind of walking through it, seeing how you feel. By B, your body's warming up a little more. You're getting heat in your body. The standing sequence prepares you for seated sequence. And so then people come to leg behind the head, and all of a sudden they're over there at the wall, and they're doing Hanumanasana and all. And I'm like,
Yeah, I know, right?
but what is this?
I know.
Oh, I'm warming up. I go, you've been practicing for 45 minutes. If you're not warm yet, you're not breathing.
Yeah.
So I'm just not a fan of
Okay, you're
that
not
type
fan.
of research. If you want to do it outside of the practice, but again, it comes back to like, this is a meditation in motion. You don't stop your Tai Chi practice in the middle, or you're in the middle of a dance and you stop to do some warm-up. The warm-up, the preparation, the research is just trying to do the posture, because I'm all about the flow. I think of it like this in my mind. When I step onto the mat, I think I mentioned this in the workshop, I imagine a leaf has just released from a tree and it floats like this, and it lands in a stream of water. And it just starts, it's going along like that. Sometimes the water's deep and it goes slower. Other times there's rapids. So in the practice, it's like once I step on the mat, I'm just in the zone. I don't want to stop. Ideally, every breath. See if this makes sense. In Ashtanga, if our breath is moving, let me start again. In Ashtanga, if we are not in an asana, if the breath is moving, the body should be moving. Do you agree? So how does that apply when people are doing all this research stuff? They're just sitting there and breathing. It's not a vinyasa and it's not an asana. It's not part of the practice. You want to do that stuff elsewhere, okay. But if you put your focus on the breath, and if the body's moving, it changes everything. It's really, you get into this whole thing of this, I don't want to stop that flow. You feel it, man. It's like, even like I used to run, I run a couple marathons. There's a point where you get this second wind, and all of a sudden you just feel like,
The body's running itself.
and you become one. I think you're not going to achieve that when you stop and do research, because now you're just thinking mechanics. This ultimately is an energetic practice. This is about prana. This is like qigong, yeah, tai chi. This is a flow of energy. This is moving prana, and prana represented through our breath, and that kind of rhythm, yeah. So that's my take on it, yeah.
Anita's my witness. This is what we're telling the students from now on.
Yeah, you're going to
Less
be like,
research.
no, you're going to be going like this. Uncle David said. You know, and I'm only here for a few days, so there are people and they're doing stuff. If I were really here, I wouldn't let them do it.
Cool.
I'd just say, no research.
Yeah.
It's not necessary. And some people were saying, oh yeah, I haven't gotten this, I've been trying for 6 years, and I go, well, your research isn't working.
Yeah, right.
How's it helped you?
Yeah.
And why is there research necessary? They're not thinking of it as yoga anymore. And so many people are starting and stopping in whatever series. Start and then, and I'll look and somebody's like this.
Doing
I said, are you waiting for
unnecessary
assistance?
things.
Yeah.
No. And I'm like,
I know.
you're not practicing. You gotta, so I'm just keep, and it freaks them out because they're tired and they go, but that's when you know to stop.
Yeah,
You have to
yeah.
build the endurance.
Yeah.
You don't stop and rest in the middle. You go, and that's why it is meant to be really hard.
Yeah.
And those advanced series projects, it's hard, man. It takes a long time to be able to get through that sequence without collapsing. And it makes you go to a place in your mind where you transcend your body. If you keep resting, to me, you're just thinking it was this physical thing. You have to transcend that. It's like that marathon runner, that person that's exhausted, and they somehow then, you tap into something else. And if you allow yourself to do that in the practice, you acknowledge, yeah. A teacher didn't even used to tell us when to stop. It was the practice. But David Jois would just give us postures like buckets of them a day. Until like, no more, yes you do. Until you were just like, I'm done, I'm cooked. Like, you can't do any more. But he didn't let us stop.
Yeah.
And so when you take that into it, it changes things, and maybe it means they're not getting as far in the practice, but they're going to have greater integrity in the practice. They're going to become stronger. It's not just about making a shape, it's about coming stronger. And it doesn't mean strength like this. It means this thing you feel inside.
Yeah.
And it's hard to just put your finger on, but it's almost like you start to understand what a bandha is.
Yeah, right, I agree.
You start to understand this energetic thing that's not about having all these muscles in this machine that can push me through these postures. It's somehow finding this thing inside, and you start feeling energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very precious, and then when
It's
we pause for
precious.
too long, it begins to dissipate.
It dissipates.
And it's very hard to get it back.
Yes, because you're starting and stopping.
Yeah.
And what's happening is people stop at that moment when they should really be focused. In that moment you think, I can't do it. And it can be in any series, but that arm balance sequence, we used to say if you can get through Ekapada Bakasana, you're going to survive that sequence, right? But there's a moment where your brain's like, I can't. And you're just trying, and you have to just be there, because then you're not thinking. When I see people stop, they're thinking. And the more you're thinking, the less you're breathing. The less you're breathing, the less you're doing yoga.
And you're probably thinking about how hard it is.
And you're thinking, oh, I'm tired, and you're doing all this stuff. And I say, it's meant to be hard. Oh, but I can't do it all. And I go, that's okay. But you're going to build the integrity of the thing, right? It's like playing some Beethoven, and I don't know, I'm making this up. There's these riffs where they have to, you don't just stop in the middle and think, okay, I'll pick up again.
Yeah,
There's
right.
a song.
Yeah, you've got to keep going.
You're trying to keep the beauty of this thing going, But I'm just like old Grandpa Swenson talking about
This is good stuff.
These
This is
kids
good stuff.
these days, I just don't know. That's not how we did it.
This is good stuff. Thank you, David. You've often spoken about the internal monologue. How can practitioners shift from a critical inner dialogue, I can't do this pose, for example, to one that is more supportive and observant? And do you still suffer from this challenge in your own practice of this perhaps negative internal dialogue?
First, we're humans, and people that are successful in life, in business, and as ballet dancers or whatever, they work really hard and they're disciplined, and you're trained that way, and you become successful, right? It doesn't really work in yoga like that, because we don't have a measuring stick, the barometer that tells you what was successful. But the one that we think we have is how something looks.
Yeah.
So we use that as the determination of, I'm good, I'm advanced, I'm successful, right? But the real success is for how many breaths did my mind not wander?
Right. Yeah, this pausing, as we were just
In
mentioning, for
some
example.
ways, when the asanas get easier, the yoga gets harder, because you can space out. Somebody that's really flexy can just space out in the middle of a practice. Even something that looks intense, they can just be there like, So in some ways, those difficult moments, it's easier to stay really present,
Yeah.
And this chatter that starts to happen in the mind, it's not an easy thing, this self-critical thing, because it depends how people are raised and cultural things and stuff, and you're representing not just yourself, but a whole family or a whole culture of people or whatever it is, right? That there's this pressure put on us to achieve and to strive and to grow and to be better. It's difficult, but it's necessary to present yoga in such a way that is not the measurement to success. But we're fighting against a powerful force, which is social media, and all of this external influence of everything's about how we look. And yoga's in every ad in a magazine now. There's people sitting on the hood of a car. You can, whatever, they're smoking cigarettes in Lotus or whatever, right? They're just, because it's become this thing, this packaging thing, and the social media stars that get millions of followers. People are fascinated with them. Why? Because of these cool tricks they can do. the shapes they can make. They get the most followers. People that get the most followers aren't the ones, the stiffest ones that can't balance, but maybe they have the best breath. Maybe they even have beautiful bandhas. Maybe they have a wonderful internal practice. So, unfortunately, it's not just something that a few words can change someone's attitude. But I would say we have to become mature to achieve what you're talking about. But you can't force someone to become mature. You have to go through a process, yeah? But part of it can be how we foster that within a room. I joked in the workshop about how we say there's no competition in yoga, but then the teacher stops the class and points to some student that can do it and everything and praises them.
Yeah, right. And if you're not the one being praised, therefore, it's easy to think,
yes,
I'm not as good as this one.
Or even the teacher is the one that goes, oh, watch me do all this amazing stuff. And it's all about, look at me, I'm so wonderful. I bet you wish you could do this. There's no competition in yoga, but look what I can do.
Yeah, the David Swenson show.
Yeah, so it's all of a sudden all that stuff, right? So if we can instead truly foster, not through our words and our actions, that people are equal, yeah? You're not just praising, you're praising that person that got there 2 days last week because they're a single parent, they're raising children on their own, they're working 3 jobs. Oh my God, this person was able to come in here and practice for 30 minutes. Good on you, praise you, Wow, fantastic, you're making some progress, wow, great. And so someone's doing advanced series, okay, fine, but that's no greater than this other person that's not doing something. So we, as teachers in the front of the room, there's a saying, fish stinks from the head. It means what's happening at the top is what comes down, right?
Absolutely.
So even though if we're saying one thing, but so it starts, it's like grassroots. It's like we can only control what's happening in our room and the attitudes we create and who gets the praise and who gets the attention and why they're getting that. Because when you're in the front of the room, people notice everything.
Yeah, I agree.
If we give all your attention to only one gender, people notice that.
Yeah, right.
If you give your attention just to the flexi strong people, people notice that. If you just give your attention to the good looking person, people notice that. Or the famous person, the rich person, whatever. As teachers, we must emulate the quality of ethically treating everyone equally in the room, regardless of their social status or appearance or anything.
I'm totally into that.
And then that is the seed from which this other thing can begin to grow.
Right.
It's not the solution,
right.
but we want to foster it and water the seed of positive self-image. Yeah.
By creating a kind of a democracy.
By creating a democratic ideal that somebody has a really big body. Great. Yeah. And last time I was here in Pier, we made a whole bunch of videos. And I don't even know if they ever used them. I think there's some, anyway.
Some of it
there's a bunch of
used,
little interviews, and one of them was, they said, he was asking a question, he goes, David, sometimes people say they want to come to yoga to lose weight. Yeah. And I said, but first of all, it probably won't work. Because losing weight is a big thing, right? It's not just one thing. It's a whole approach to life. But first of all, figure out, why do you want to lose weight? Be happy in your body. Now, if it's for health reasons or something, okay. But if it's just aesthetics that you want to be thin like that person or this person or that person, that's not a good reason. But there's a bigger picture of the food we eat, our choices in life, but ultimately learn to be happy in our skin. Yeah. Otherwise, we're always trying to look like the other person.
Yeah, right.
The person with curly hair wants straight hair. The person with straight hair wants curly hair. The person with light skin wants dark skin. The person with, this wants that. And ultimately, we're trying to figure out how in yoga we can gain joy in what we can do. I'm acknowledging this is not easy.
Yeah, right.
It is a difficult thing, but difficulty doesn't mean we don't try. And maybe it won't work for everyone in there. But if 1 or 2 students, it helps them, our work is it's good, right? It's good quality.
I've been really tough a couple of times, maybe. One student was basically, I figured out one student was harming themselves.
Yeah.
with this class and with subsequent classes, maybe 3 in a day. And in the end, I said, basically, you're not welcome here. If you're going to continue with this crazy, suicidal attitude, you're going to have to start reducing to a reasonable amount, because you could see it in this person, too thin, and they got upset and they left. And then 3 days later they came back and they said, thank you for that, and we continued, and that attitude began to dissipate. So some people, even in a kindly environment, which I hope I create, some people don't necessarily get it too easily.
But it's not our job per se, and sometimes it's really difficult, especially if there's eating disorders and things like that. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist, you know? And it's tricky to start thinking we can advise people on these kind of things. Sometimes if you know family members or something, you might express but we try to help people the best we can to feel that everyone's welcome and we're all equal. But it's not always emulated like that.
Yeah.
And again, it's the flexy ones. They get more postures, they get more praise, they get more this. Everybody's looking at them, everybody wants to be them, blah, 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 blah. And what is becoming more and more obvious in the world of social media, at some point it really messes people up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, by setting
Because
these
at first
strange goals.
You get even the people at the top, it starts messing with them, because your whole image has to be perfection, and so no one's perfect,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And so and once you can't live up to that. So there's this saying that perfection is the enemy of the good, right? Trying to be perfect is an enemy of just being good.
Yeah, because in a way you can never be good, because you can never be perfect.
So better to just practice and teach them to feel good in their body and foster that. But ultimately we can't be everything for someone. But we can certainly create the environment and plant the seeds and foster those seeds and try to be supportive. But we're also not perfect. We're trying to figure it out. And honestly, we're still the first generations of people doing this outside of India.
Yeah, right.
This kind of yoga has only been in the West for like 50 years or something, right? It's West and East, right? It's just, even though mystical practices and stuff are so ancient here, but this is all, we'll see.
Yeah, right.
But why did it come to the West? Look at all these big spiritual practices. Paramahamsa Yogananda, the Hare Krishna movement, all these spiritual teachers that came to the West. Do you know why they came? Their teachers told them.
The teachers told them.
But honestly, yoga was dying in India. Even today, people don't want their kids to grow up and become a yogi. They'll respect yogis, but they don't want their kid covered in ashes sitting by the river. They want you to be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, something like that, right? But yoga was drying up. Pattabhi Jois had a couple students for like 20 years in Mysore.
Before you guys showed up.
It wasn't until Westerners came like this, because if there's something that's always there, you take it for granted. Just like, whatever, it's been here forever. But in the West, there was a hunger. The West had material wealth and stuff, but a spiritual deficit. And so these things, it was hippies started going like, wow, and seeking something more. And now what's happened? It's like a boomerang. Yoga is becoming popular in India because
people in the West are doing it.
But people in the West doing it meant that Bollywood people started doing it. And when famous people start doing it, other people, that's why Ashtanga became popular, because of Madonna and Sting. And so now in India, Bollywood people doing yoga, it became more like, okay. So it's interesting how, but it came out of India with seeds being planted in this really fertile ground because it was sort of drying up in India. And now it's becoming popular in India again. I think of the yoga itself as a living, breathing entity. but it only lives when people are breathing in the practice. It breathes life into it. And when it's not, the whole thing starts to die. It's like, oh, go over there, and those people start, and so it starts to grow again, this entity, you know, that is the practice.
Yeah, right. That's nice. Thank you. A student had an interesting question for you. They were intrigued by your statement that you've never taken any stimulants or had a drink of alcohol, and yet in your early days you were part of the whole hippie era, surrounded by people that were doing as such. How is it that you weren't interested? Was it the yoga, or
was it the yoga?
It was the yoga that...
So I started yoga at age 13, and by the time I was 14, 15, this was the late 60s, early 70s, everybody's doing drugs.
Yeah.
They were doing like the organic drugs where people smoking pot and eating hash and eating magic mushrooms, and there were the chemical-based enthusiasts doing LSD and amphetamines and barbiturates and drinking alcohol, and people would try to get me high and stuff. But I looked at them and just being logical, first of all, because I was doing yoga, I felt something, and I didn't want to put something in my body that I thought would interfere with that, because the yoga made me feel good, and I was like, well, I don't put smoke in my lungs. I mean, I'm breathing all this stuff. I don't want to smoke. Well, you can eat the pot or whatever, you know, but I would look at their life, and I thought, like, at least in the 60s, drugs were part of a spiritual quest. People were taking drugs to open their mind as a spiritual quest.
Or at least believing that they were.
They thought they were.
Yeah.
No, they were seeking, and that's why that was their motivation for taking it, right? By the 70s, it was just called getting effed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting messed up, you know, and or getting, you know, it was just a recreational thing. Party, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I would look at these people's eyes. It looked like they were having fun during the party, but I'd all see them the next day, and they looked miserable. And I used that as I said, I don't know, you guys looked like you had fun last night, but I see you the next day. Even if you thought you had some spiritual experience, your life is still messed up. If you looked like you were enlightened and felt great, I'd be all in. But I said, you know, for me, yoga gets me high. I like this feeling of this yoga thing. But I joke and I say, I don't say I'll never do drugs, but why do it in your early years when your synapses are firing and your mind is, you know, clear and everything? I think it should be when you're in your 80s in the retirement home.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah, less to lose.
You're going to be taking drugs anyway. It may as well be
Can't
fun
move my
ones.
body, so may as well
It'd be like,
get
bring
high.
it on. And then people would be looking forward to going to the home. I'm going to the home.
Yeah. The last 10 years of my life, high as a kite.
They check your ID. If you're under 85, you can't enter the club. And then the last days are just going to be, But yeah, it was interesting. It was just part of, it wasn't only yoga that I started, but I started eating health foods at the same time.
Yeah.
And that term was kind of new. Health foods also came about at that same time. Otherwise, there was just food, and this came thing about health foods. And I was reading labels, and became a vegetarian, was eating like whole grains and brown rice and, you know, stuff like this, thinking about health. And so all of that fit into this other stuff. And even though they were feeling like it was a spiritual thing, I didn't think it was a healthy thing.
Yoga was the lucky break for you, wasn't it, really? Discovering it at such an early age.
There is a chapter in my new book called Luck, Karma, or Fate. Yeah, just by whatever, my brother, who I looked up to, was doing healthy things, so I did that. It wasn't anything I pursued, it was just like, he was my big brother, an influence in my life. He was doing healthy things, lucky me.
Right.
Yeah. But then I kept doing it because I got a taste of it, but then still, you know, he's still doing yoga, he's written books and stuff, yeah, so.
Nice. So, my favorite Tim Miller quote is, he said, when I was last with him, about 10 years ago, kind of like the pretext or the reason he couldn't do some of the poses, and he was rambling on, and he said, well, the older I get, the better I used to be.
Yeah.
I love that. So anyway, with that in mind, Ashtanga can be physically demanding. From your perspective, what are some key elements for practicing in a way that ensures longevity, allowing us to continue on the mat for decades rather than leading to burnout and repetitive stress injuries and etc.
So this is going to become a little redundant because I have the same answer so many times. Focus on your breath.
Focus, yeah.
If it's breath centric, yeah, you're gonna, some postures and stuff are gonna come and go. But if it's just a physical thing, you're gonna burn out.
Right.
And it's also, there are different phases of the practice. Initially, it's normal to be because that's what we understand. And you almost have to go through it to understand
Definitely.
that it wasn't necessary,
Yeah.
right? Or, you know, pushing through and you just wake up, you smell like tiger balm all the time, you're limping around, but you're fired up because you can do all these postures, but you're just exhausted, and at some point you're like, wow, okay, maybe I don't have to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like we used to try to make it harder, lift more handstands and all this stuff. I understand that's fun, yeah, but longevity means at some point we start treating this practice like medicine. And there's the comment, physician, heal thyself. So we are ultimately our best doctor.
So in a way, you're saying that paying attention to the breath informs us what's suitable for us at the moment.
I think it will, because when the breath starts going,
Yeah.
and breath-centric practice means you're going to be less sore, you have more oxygen in your body, etc.
Right.
Breath-centric practice means you can't actually be going like that and breathe calmly at the same time.
Yeah.
So, and how we feel later in the day will determine really what we should or should not have been doing during the practice. I even describe it, sometimes it's like the party, the big party weekend. Yeah, but you wake up, you have a yoga hangover. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, the party was good, man, but oh,
Yeah, right.
whoa.
Yeah, favorite now.
and you realize that maybe when you were younger that was okay. You could party and sleep for 2 hours the whole weekend and on Monday still go to work. But then there's a point where you start going, oh, that's not working for me anymore. So that party is you could do a lot of asanas and you spring back, but at some point you feel like you had a hangover, right? You're just sore. So you start shifting your focus with the idea being, how can I practice in such a way that I feel good at the end? That's going to be the result. And you can even, I describe it like this. We should practice like eating a meal. Finish one just a little hungry for the next one. Right?
Right.
Because if you overindulge at and then you feel
right.
lethargic. So finish a practice like you felt like you could have done a little more, but stop at that moment. So finish just a little hungry for the next one, rather than like feeling like you've got to eat until like that Thanksgiving dinner until you're like, and you're lying there
Another turkey sandwich?
like a python, you know, trying to digest all those asanas, like whoa, trying to move through. Whoa. And
I think I'll take tomorrow off.
you just become intelligent, right, and start
Yeah.
figuring out how to consume the asanas in a healthier way.
This is from a student of ours or a colleague, I'm not sure, Stephanie. After yesterday's class, you were talking about scaling back your teaching. I guess that was a conversation we had over there. After today's class, you were talking about scaling back your teaching schedule, traveling less in the coming years. How do you see your role in this new era? What do you see yourself doing in the next decade, yoga or otherwise? And of course, please mention your new book.
Meaning my role in the world of Ashtanga?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what she was inferring. That's what I took the question to mean.
So, first of all...
Grandpa Swenson, obviously.
No, honestly, I've never considered myself as having any role.
Right.
I just teach and do my thing. I don't try to see that I have some certain station or position or whatever. I've never had that thought in my mind. I just teach the people that are in front of me. And so I've never thought like I have to, like in the city where I live in Austin, I don't have to like police the Ashtanga world or something. I just do what I do. I go to other people's classes, people host me. And so that's my attitude, is that I don't have a vision for having a role or anything in the world of Ashtanga. Well, I'm glad that people have enjoyed classes and things with me, but
that is a great segue into Anita's question, and we can say it's our last question. So,
Okay.
would you like to ask your?
This?
Yeah.
Okay. That is from the Hong Kong student. What legacy do you hope to leave in the world of yoga? And how do you want future generation to remember your contribution?
I have no clue. Again, my life has not been lived to try to think what will be my legacy or something.
Yeah.
My whole focus along the road is what can I do today with the people in front of me? It's not like thinking, how will they think of me 10 years from now or 30 years from now? Right now, what can I do in this room to convey and to communicate, yeah? One thing that I don't know if it's clear, but it's something I try to emulate in the style, if you will, of teaching, is it's not only information, it's not just data, it's not just instructional things. I want you to have an experience. I want you to experience the vibration and the certain feeling we had in those early years of a community of people practicing together. That there's joy in the room, and you take that in and you get a feeling. I want you to feel, this is what I felt. And so I want people to sort of feel that. And whether that's coming from me or whatever, it's a hope. Like whenever I sign someone's book, the yoga book, the practice manual, I say have fun practicing. And it doesn't mean that we're not working hard. I mean, you know, we work really hard, but if it's joyful, yeah. And in some ways, in some ways, I get this reputation for just being the funny guy. Oh yeah, David's the funny guy, go, you'll have some fun. But it's almost presented as though the knowledge or information can't truly be valuable or deep because it's just kind of funny. But my belief is that you can have deep philosophical and depth of experience and have joy at the same time. So the delivery might be through joy or even sometimes silliness, but the message hopefully comes across that there's something deeper there, yeah?
Could not agree
that
more.
that it needs to be presented in a human way, yeah? And that in general, in life, in love, in relationships, in yoga, and in business, it is very easy to make things difficult and very difficult to make things easy. So my goal has always been, how can I present this in a way that is accessible? It doesn't mean you have to even dilute anything, yeah? And I've been criticized for so many things in my life with how I teach, with having yoga videos, with writing a book, all these things, yeah? But I've always felt like, how can you present it so that people can have a taste of this, that they can have an experience, that they can feel the joy, and to present the knowledge and information in a way that's assimilable, yeah? And really good teachers create thinking students. And the best of all teachers create students that don't need them anymore. So I've never tried to teach in such a way that I would foster dependence of students upon me. As a matter of fact, I've always considered myself a teacher with no students. I feel like I do not have any students. People say, what do you mean? I say, because it sounds possessive. I don't look at someone and say, you are my student. I don't own this person. No one is my student. I say, we're all students of yoga. I will share information. I'll share whatever information I can. I'll share it from my heart. But I'm not going to tell you what to do with it. I'm not going to tell you not to study with someone else. My goal is not to own a student or take ownership of how they practice or think or whatever. My goal is to be as clear as possible, to present things from my heart in a joyful manner, be respectful of other teachers, be respectful of other systems, yeah, that I'm not an Ashtanga yoga evangelist out to save the world with Ashtanga yoga. I just happen to like it. Someone else likes it, fine. But also to let people see a bigger picture. People are suffering, man, in the world. And there's so much. There's wars, there's environmental things, there's all this stuff. And I truly believe that yoga, it is the most universal tool that I am aware of with potential to help people, regardless of social status or culture or anything. So I try to just present this as a tool. And to help us try to find our way through these challenging times, you know, and to give people that little moment where they can be in a yoga room with other people, breathing, and then understand that when they are at home, that same breath they were sharing in that yoga room is the same breath when they're at home. While we're breathing here in Hong Kong, people are breathing in Tierra del Fuego and Spain and Russia and Ukraine and Gaza. They're all breathing. We share one breath on this planet. One world, one breath. If we can bring our focus to that, to understand that we all have far greater things in common than we do different. And we can disagree on so many things, but if we can start with the commonality of taking a breath together, you know. So I even had in the year 1999, the calendar was about to flip to 2000, and people were fixated on that.
Yes, they were.
Yeah, and there were yoga people saying, let's all get together at midnight and say Om together to unite the world. And they go, but that doesn't unite a lot of places. I'm from Texas. Texans aren't going to be Oming, and different religions and things don't want to Om, whether they're Christians or Islam or whatever. They don't want to Om. So that doesn't work. And then there are people who said, let's get together at midnight and do 108 sun salutations. I said, that's only going to unite a hardcore bunch of people that want to stay up till midnight and bang out 108 sun salutations. So I started a program called Earth 2000, the First Breath. I had a website called First Breath 2000. Yeah. And the idea is wherever you are on the planet, a couple of seconds before midnight, exhale. It doesn't have to be any kind of special breathing, just with the idea of being whatever you need to let go of, you release it in that moment. At precisely midnight, inhale. A new day, a new dawn, new possibility, a new birth. When we enter this world, the first thing we do to say we're alive is inhale. The last thing we do before death is exhale. This breath unites us around the planet. It transcends all culture, religion, language, sexual preference, gender, everything. Everybody breathes. Yeah? So it's a unifying factor. And so as far as I know, this program was the only one on the planet that everyone participated in. They didn't know they were, but everyone was breathing. So this idea is that this spirituality of conscious breathing can be achieved, whether you're in an asana or not. And if we just bring it back to that, breath-centric, you know, it's a way to unite us, to help us to help each other, and through helping each other, maybe we can help the planet.
I agree. Wonderful. Thank you, David.
Thank you. It's been
Thank
a
you,
pleasure
David.
and an honor.
Good luck with everything. Good luck with your book.
Should I say something about the new book?
Well,
Yes.
we're kind of out of time, so...
You can say something about
yes.
it. Okay.
Thank you for this visit. We all love your teaching, and we're very grateful to have you. And, well, we hope to see you again soon.
I love you all. Thank you for hosting me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. I look forward to seeing you again here or down the road.
Great stuff.
See you next year.
Much love.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tadze. Jagina.